Alexis Kaye, a disgruntled college student, became a killer to prove to the Joker that she was worthy to be his acolyte. But is the new DC Multiverse Joker and Punchline 2-pack worth adding to your collection? Stick around and find out. Starting with the packaging, we've got a double-wide DC Multiverse window box. Names and logos down here. On the side, it simply says the Joker and Punchline, so no reference to any particular story for those searching in store, and here's the UPC. And then on the back, we get some comic-style artwork of our two villains. I feel like this is probably the most famous image of Punchline. As for the Joker, this is pretty creepy. And one thing I appreciate about this 2-pack in particular is that they gave the cards and figure stands their own tray. That means you can save this backer card for figure photography or diorama purposes. The deep purples and blues make me feel like I'm right in an A24 movie. Joking aside, this is the kind of thing I always ask for in a 2-pack review, and I'm so glad to see McFarlane listening. For packaging, I'm giving Joker and Punchline 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and Joker stands at 7 1/4 inches, or about 18.5 centimeters. Punchline, on the other hand, stands at 7 inches, or about 17.5 centimeters. Joker, for the most part, is just reuse from the recent Infinite Frontier version. Infinite Frontier has a brighter purple suit with a black shirt and a lime green vest, whereas the 2-pack version has a cooler toned purple suit, an orange shirt, and a grass green vest. Additionally, the spats on the new one have been painted in a much brighter Joker white. Otherwise, has been given a new left hand. He's also got this really nice new head. Recall that the Infinite Frontier version is missing an eye. He's also got soft serve ice cream for hair. As much as I really do like that head, this one is very traditional. There's some nice shading in the skin so it doesn't look like a flat white, and that grin is nice and creepy. Additionally, while I do prefer a more buttoned down Joker, this relaxed open collar version does have a lot of charm. And speaking of charm, let's talk about Punchline. Seeing as how Punchline is a female DC Multiverse character, naturally she shares parts with Nightfall Catwoman. Remember that scene in A Charlie Brown Christmas where they talk about how Snoopy has to play all the animals in the play? At this point, that's pretty much how I feel about Nightfall Catwoman. Can you be a Supergirl? How about a Batwoman? How about a Starfire? Yes, she's even a good Starfire. That said, I will say the reuse here does make sense, and they didn't go as far as they could have. They have the same upper arms. Note the bicep cut that looks suspiciously like a glove. They also have the same waist, but unlike Supergirl, they did continue the seam on the upper torso and also the skirt. And you know what? Referring back to the box art, that zipper is comics accurate, so it's fine. As for the legs and the boots, they started with Catwoman, but sculpted over them to do their own thing. It would have been very easy for McFarlane Toys to cheat and just use these boots as is, but instead they did resculpt them to be comics accurate and sculpt all the laces running down the front of the boot. Additionally, whereas Catwoman has a high heel that's very difficult to balance on, Punchline has been given a more sensible wedge. In addition to the boots, and she has her signature X and O gloves. There are strategic tears in the costume, but those are just paint applications. I do like the color pops, like the blue lines and the red zippers, but one thing I'm a bit mixed on is this ball she's holding. Seriously, is she a Joker fangirl or a Green Goblin groupie? Hello, my dear. Full disclosure, I've never read a story with Punchline. Everything I know about the character comes from watching episodes of Casually Comics. With that being the case, I have no idea what this orange ball is. What I do know is that it's permanently affixed to her hand, and that's pretty much the thing I'm not that crazy about. Otherwise, the only major thing left to talk about is the head. Not only is the paint on her makeup really nice, but they also went in and gave her freckles. That said, I'm a bit confused about these pink balls up top. Based on the artwork, I get the impression they're supposed to be her hair, but honestly I have no idea, and therefore I'm not going to complain about it. What I am going to complain about is the fact that the elbows are a completely different color, and when not bent, really do stand out. That seems to be more of a production issue than an actual choice, yet I can't pretend it isn't distracting. I also do feel like there is some missed opportunity to not have more paint detail in her shirt, which, referring back to the box art, does have some squiggly pattern. Overall though, and I'm pretty happy with her. As for the Joker, it's nice to get this body in a more traditional color scheme, and this new head has a lot of swapping potential. Docking ever so slightly for that joint issue, and for presentation I'm giving this 2-pack 4 points. Moving on to Posability, and I've got to admit there were some really pleasant surprises in store for me with this set. From the top they can look up this far, really highlighting just how skinny Joker's neck is. This far down, pretty good tilt, and all the way around. Moving down they can raise their arms this high with Joker having the better reach. No rotator cuff on Joker, but he does still get that wobble. Punchline has one though. They also each get full rotation. Moving on down, and both figures have bicep swivel, double jointed elbows with great bends, and McFarlane wrists that can swivel and hinge in any direction. Moving to the middle, and Punchline has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist, where Joker is kind of an internal barbell with this rubber overlay. He can barely arch backwards at all, but Punchline's pretty good, but both of them are decent as DC Multiverse figures go. I will say that Punchline has a very nice amount of tilt, though Joker's nothing to slouch at either, and of course both can twist. Below the waist, and both figures have typical McFarlane hips. At first I was nervous about Punchline because of the skirt, but it's layered with slits cut in, so just look at that kick. Additionally, she gets a perfect split. Joker can also kick pretty high and split pretty wide. Moving down, and he doesn't have a whole lot in the way of twist. Punchline has much more range in that department, but both figures do have double jointed knees with very deep bends, toe articulation, and ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, though in the case of the Joker not that much, and like Joker moving from Harley to Punchline, pivot. Despite the waist, these figures are very well articulated, and I'm particularly impressed with how well McFarlane handled Punchline's skirt and leg articulation. For Posability, I'm giving Joker and Punchline 5 points. Moving on to Playability, and if I'm being honest, the box is packed pretty lightly. Of course, each character comes with a trading card. If you somehow don't know who the Joker is, you could always pause here. And if you'd like to learn a bit more about Alexis, you can pause here. Otherwise, each one comes with a figure stand and a knife. I'm pretty sure this is just the one from Infinite Frontier, though Punchline's appears to be new. We do still have the problem, though, of her permanently glued on pumpkin bomb. I don't care, I'm calling it a pumpkin bomb. I mean, Hasbro managed to crack the code on removable tiny orange ball technology. That said, you can swap out the hand with Nightfall Catwoman if you want to. Just bear in mind that you won't have the O on the back of the glove. Otherwise, one of my favorite things about this set is the backdrop, which you can tell from the glam shots I'm already having a lot of fun with, but Playability is more than tiny knives and orange orbs. It's also about how well your figures play with others. Keeping things simple today and mainly focusing on Joker and Batman, and in approximate order of release, here we have Arkham Asylum. Next is Rebirth, which shares a lot of parts with Arkham Asylum. Here's Mortal Kombat 11, which is one of my favorites and I think looks great with this Punchline. But for the 3 Jokers, and here we have the clown version, and the criminal, which also suffers from mismatched joints. I would show you the comedian, but unfortunately, I can't find mine. That's alright though, because I do have Death of the Family, Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, which also looks good with Punchline, the Infinite Frontier version, which we've already looked at, and the Walmart exclusive Vampire Joker. Shifting from Jokers to Batman, and here we have the Jokerized Dark Detective, the infected version of the Batman Who Laughs, and the full-on Batman Who Laughs. As for Batman, and also in approximate order of release, here we have Detective Comics 1000, the Arkham Knight video game version, 3 Jokers, which is a great match for both of these, DC Rebirth, which admittedly skews a bit too short, Page Punchers, which also skews short, but isn't that bad, and then here we have Arkham City, which I know a lot of you use as your main Batman, the blue and gray version of Hush, towering over everybody, the black and gray version of Hush, the blue and gray version of Nightfall, and the black and gray version of Nightfall. That said, and for those interested in some potential live-action customs, and here we have Michael Keaton, Christian Bale from the Dark Knight trilogy, the Ultimate Movie 6-pack version of Pattinson, and for those looking to turn this Joker into Jared Leto, here we have Batfleck from Dawn of Justice. For a roll-to-scale comparison, here are the Joker and Punchline with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. Of course, I know what you really want to see are some Joker head swaps. Starting with the 2-pack kit on the Arkham Asylum body, and I really like this. I've always felt that the Arkham Asylum head was a bit on the big side, so this really balances it out. Other way around, and I actually think that this head fits this body a bit better too. The skin tones don't match exactly, but it does feel a bit more balanced for this frame. The ironic thing is I feel like this is a bit too small for the Rebirth body. Granted, it is sculpted and painted much better, and I think you could get away with it. I don't know, let me know what you think. Other way around, and because of the paint job, this has always been one of my least favorite McFarlane Joker heads, goods. That said, if you repainted it, I think the personality works pretty well with this design. If you prefer the color scheme of Infinite Frontier, you'll be happy to know that the head's a perfect match, as are the skin tones. Same thing if you want to go the other direction. As for Mortal Kombat, if you want to make this one work, it's going to require a peg swap. In general, I do kind of like this, and the skin tones aren't that bad of a match. On the flip side, I'm not sure quite how I feel about this one. I love the Mortal Kombat 11 head, but it's so realistic compared to that pencil-thin neck that I just don't really think you can pull it off. Here we have the clown, and this works pretty well too. The skin tones are a pretty good match, and the size is nice. And honestly, this is a pretty good all-around classic Joker. I don't know that I think this head works as well on the new 2-pack body. The skin tones work well enough, and both necks are pretty skinny. Just stylistically, I don't know how I personally feel about it. If you like it though, more power to you. I kind of feel the same way about the criminal. Don't get me wrong, I like this head. It's just that stylistically, this feels kind of like a mismatch. As for putting the 2-pack head on the criminal body though, and I think there's a lot of potential here, to see what I mean, I'm just going to jump straight to the vampire version. If you wanted to do a little bit of repainting, this would make for a nice standard Joker figure, and you know what? I really like the vampire head on this body. The untucked shirt and pop collar just give it a really suave vampire feel. Last but not least, and least surprising, the Heath Ledger head does not work on this body, and the 2-pack head does not work on the Heath Ledger body. Even without a lot of accessories, this Joker is a lot of fun, and honestly, any of my criticisms of Punchline would have been cancelled out if that ball was either removable or she came with an extra hand. As is, and it does really limit display options, though I have to say, being able to use the backer card as a diode does add a lot of value. Even so, for playability, I'm giving Joker and Punchline 4 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Joker and Punchline retail for $39.99, and as of this recording, pre-orders are still pretty much open everywhere. As short on accessories as the box is, Joker is still really impressive, and unless McFarlane pulls a fast one with a platinum chase or something like that, this is probably the only way we're going to be getting a Punchline for the foreseeable future. Only you can know if this set's worth it to you, but I'm pretty glad I picked it up. And I have a feeling I'm going to be having a lot of fun with this backdrop and figure photography moving forward. Breaking down to $20 a figure, and for price, I'm giving this set 5 points, averaging out to a grand total of 4.6 out of 5. As must-have characters go, where does Punchline rank for you? Sound off in the comments below? While you're down there, tell me what other modern Batman character you hope McFarlane makes next. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.